Okay, thank you very much and welcome everyone to today's training session on the IGCSE English Literature, which carries the course code 4ET. This is very much about content, and on Thursday it's much more about assessment. So we have a lot of downloads for you today, and you'll see that in the chat there is the hyperlink to the downloads. So we've got the delegate booklet, we've got the issue 3 of the specification, we've got issue 3 of the sample assessment materials, issue 7 of the anthology, we've got the getting started guide, we've got a document about writing about drama as drama, a scheme of work, a mop list, an example lesson plan on My Last Duchess. We've got a literature planner, and then we've got the June 2024 question papers and mark schemes for paper 1 and paper 2. So I'll be referring to those as we go through. So just so that we're all being able to use the chat, for me here in the UK, it's morning. Just wondering where you're joining us from, because this is an international qualification. So if you wouldn't mind just popping into the text chat there where you're joining us from today so that we can see the range of people we have. Okay, so Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Egypt, Spain, UK, New Zealand, Budapest, Hong Kong, Cyprus, and we can see that we're at Myanmar. Yeah, we can see that we are an international community. So you're all very welcome. This is designed for people who are new to the specification. If you've been teaching it for a while, that's great as well. And you'll be able to share some good practice. So lovely. Thank you very much for doing that. Very quick on the chat there. So what we're looking at today, roughly divided into 4 sections. A little bit about us as an awarding body, a little bit about content and planning, some work on assessment and mark schemes, and then conclude with a little bit about support resources and a few final questions. And then module 2 on Thursday is about the nitty-gritty of assessment and marking. So that's where we're going. And what are we aiming to do today? Going to think about how the qualification is devised and awarded, look at the content and the assessment objectives, think a little bit about planning and lessons, a little bit about understanding the assessment and how to apply the mark schemes, but most of that will be reserved for Thursday, and a little bit about support. So that's our cunning plan, if you like. So welcome to Pearson Edexcel. Many moons ago, when I first started working for them, I was, of course, started as an examiner. Now I'm a senior examiner and a trainer. And I worked for Edexcel because they were the awarding body, they were the assessment wing of the organisation. And Pearson were the publishing wing of the organisation, and they've come together, and we're now called Pearson Edexcel. So that's a little bit how that works. We are the UK's largest awarding body. Being, the history goes back over 150 years. I'm always very interested in the statistics here. It does amaze me that we mark well over 3 million. We've got well over 3 million learners, over 10 million exam scripts every year. That's a massive amount. This slide says 9, but it has gone up since then. And we operate over 70 countries, many of which, of course, are in the meeting today. So we don't need to spend too long on this, but that's just putting it into context a little bit. So lots of documents, as I said, and I'll be referring to those as we go through, but we're going to start with an introduction to the specification, and that is document SO2 in your pack. And this is about how the qualification is put together. So this slide just outlines the structure of the course. So component 1, which is an exam, a 2-hour exam, is mandatory for all students. And it's divided into 3 sections. So section A is the unseen poetry, section B is the anthology poetry, and section C is the modern prose. So I'm just going to unpack that a little bit. But in short, I always call this the 20, 30, 40 paper. So the unseen poetry is exactly that. It's a poem that students haven't seen before. It appears in the exam paper. Students explore the meaning and the effects created by that previously unseen poem. Now, the poetry question is section B. It's on anthology poetry. Students have studied this anthology previously. I'll talk about the anthology a bit more in a moment. They're given a choice of 2 questions. One names 2 poems and one names 1 poem, and they can choose the other. And then section C is the modern prose. It's a 40-mark essay question from a choice of 2 on the text they have chosen. Thanks for your questions on it. If you scroll back up a little bit in the chat, you'll see that there's a hyperlink there where you can find all of the downloads. So paper 1 is a closed book exam. Students are given a copy of the anthology text. And obviously they're given a copy of the unseen. Okay, thank you very much. So the link to the resources is there again in the chat for you. Then schools choose either component 2, which is the exam route, or component 3, which is the coursework route. Now, today we'll mostly be focusing on the exam route, but the texts are obviously the same. They mirror each other for our component 2 and component 3. So section A of both the exam route and the coursework route have a focus on modern drama. It's 1 30-mark essay in the exam from a choice of 2 on the set text. And for the coursework, 1 essay, either teacher devised or student devised or devised between them on the studied text. And then for section B or assignment B, the focus is the literary heritage. Thanks for that question, Selena. You'll find those in the specification, the prescribed editions of the text. 30-mark question, a choice of 2 questions in the literary heritage in the exam. And that component 2 is an open book exam. So it's clean copies to be taken in of the prescribed text, which you'll find in the specification. And then for the coursework route, it's 1 essay. So 2 coursework assignments, internally set and assessed and externally moderated. Now you'll see that these are, component 1 is more heavily weighted, 60% of the final grade there, and 40% for component 2 or the coursework, whichever you're doing. So that there is some specific coursework training coming up, Jane, which might be useful, you might find useful. You'll find that on the Pearson training. Does it have to be completed in timed exam conditions? No, not in a specific, what we used to call control conditions. Yes, they can redraft, but there are guidelines for the amount of help that teachers can offer in that process. So all of that, again, is in the specification, but you'll hear about it again in the coursework training. Okay. So moving on to the specification and the anthology. The specification, I'm going to give you that again. Specification is SO2 in today's download. It's issue 3 of the specification, as you can see on that slide. That is the content, the assessment, the core objectives of the course. The sample assessment materials, we call those the SAMs for short, they are also in your download. They're SO3, and that's issue 3 of the sample assessment materials as well. They're the first set of assessments to be written by examiners. So very important that you have those 2 documents. So we'll look at the content of the anthology for this later on. So the anthology for the literature, so the anthology is central to the GCSE specification A and the literature. So you're using, if you're doing specification A, GCSE English language, you'll be looking at sections 1 and 2 of the anthology. For this, for ET, English literature, we're looking at part 3, which are the poems for the anthology. You can order this from the Pearson website. Students have a copy to use in the classroom. They need to study all of the poems in detail, and they need to feel confident that they know where they're going with that anthology. So a little bit about the set text. Just might be useful to have a little look at these. So just a bit of an overview of the content. So section A, unseen poetry for paper 1, a selection of modern poetry to study there to ensure that candidates are confident in approaching something they haven't seen before. Then for the section B anthology, which we're going to go on to have a think about in a moment, they study the 16 poems from the poetry section, part 3 of the International English Anthology. They answer 1 question on either 2 set poems or a set poem and one of their choice. And then the modern prose, they study 1 of the set texts for the paper, and they answer 1 question from a choice of 2 on that text. And the teaching there should focus on whole text. So paper 1 is closed book, texts are not allowed, but students are given the anthology. So 3 sections to that paper 1. So the set text, the poetry set text, and I'm going to be referring in a moment to the Getting Started guide. That's SO5 in your download today. And we're going to be spending a little bit of time having a quick look at that Getting Started guide on and off as we go through today's training. It has some excellent summaries. So the poems in the anthology are If, Prayer Before Birth, Blessing, Search for My Tongue, 2:30, Piano, Hide and Seek, Sonnet 116, La Belle Dame, Poem at 39, War Photographer, The Tiger, My Lost Duchess, Half Caste, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, and Remember. Okay, so there's just a question that's come in there in the exam. Are they given the whole anthology or just the poems referred to in the question? They're given all of that section of the anthology, Jennifer, because one of the questions is one question names 2 poems, or they can choose the question that names 1 poem plus a poem of their choice. So they have all of the poems in the anthology, but they just focus their answer on 2, either the 2 named in that question or the 1 named plus 1 of their choice. So we're going to have a little look at the Getting Started guide now, and I've just picked Piano just because all of the poems are in that Getting Started guide with some guidance. So we can see here, if we look at Piano from the Getting Started guide, we get an overview of the poem. It tells us in the Getting Started guide, a man reminisces about an event from his childhood when he hears a woman singing. And then we've got 4 bullet points. So this is really helpful for teachers, but of course it can be shared with students. The bullet points address things like the structure and form of the poem, comment on the word, the allusions, how the poem ends. So if we have a little look at that, so if you can just go to that Getting Started guide, or just a reminder that that's SO5 in the download. I realise there are lots of things to support you in today's download here. So I'm just going to comment on that, maybe the first bullet point, which talks about the uniformity of the poem, the rhyming couplets, the equal number of lines per verse, the regular syllable counts, matches the sense of harmony and security the childhood memories bring. Despite the hints of negativity shown by the words insidious, betrays, weeps, the rhyme and rhythm remain upbeat, reminiscent of the many references to music and its power to uplift. And you can see the other bullet points there about the narrator's description of his mother, the allusions, the techniques, the final stanza, and that kind of shift there. So there are notes like that on all of these poems to help support you in your teaching of these anthology texts. So hopefully that's very useful to you. So all of those texts need to be studied. So moving on to section C. So 30 marks for the anthology, 40 marks for this section C, modern prose. Now we are adding two more, or we have added two more texts to this for first teaching now and first assessment in May 2026. So the choice of texts here are To Kill a Mockingbird, Of Mice and Men, The Whale Rider, The Joy Luck Club, Things Fall Apart, and the two new set texts, Clara and the Sun and Western Lane. Just thought we'd use the chat again here. Which one are you thinking of studying, or if you're already teaching this, which one do you study at the moment? Just give you a moment to pop that into the chat. So The Whale Rider, Of Mice and Men, Joy Luck. Oh, nice range coming in here. Hello from Jordan as well. Yeah, lots coming in for Of Mice and Men, but a few others as well. Of Mice and Men seems to be the favourite, but it's nice to have a range there. So, talking again about the Getting Started guide, if you can just turn to the Of Mice and Men section there, we can have a little look through that. So we can see here that this is divided into a number of different parts. So we've got a number of bullet points here about context and content. Again, it's a very, very useful document. So there are 9 bullet points on context and content, 4 bullet points on themes, and 2 paragraphs on structure and form. So a lot of material there to help you. And I'm just going to stop talking for a moment and give you a chance to have a little read through that from the Getting Started guide. Which page? For me, it's on page 9, 8 and 9. So it's got things like, where it's set, a bit about the author, a bit about the historical context, a bit about the droughts, a little bit about poverty, and things about being canned. This is in the Getting Started guide. It's SO5 in today's download. Then we've got some stuff about themes, dreams, loneliness, death, and friendship. And then we've got something about the structure and form, about the short, it takes place between Thursday and Sunday, that it's in 6 parts, that it's got a circular structure, and so on. So just a very useful, and there are those notes on all of the text. There are support materials as well coming out, in terms of things like knowledge organizers coming out for the new texts. They'll be on the website, hopefully by the end of October. So if any of you are thinking of doing either Clara and the Sun or Western Lane, there will be materials to support you for those as well. So just a quick overview of the paper 2, modern drama. Students study one text from the prescribed list for this section of the paper, and they answer one question on their chosen text. Teaching focuses again on the whole text. That's section A, that's 30 marks. And section B, literary heritage, again, one text from the prescribed list and one question on their chosen text. And again, that's 30 marks. It's open book, so they take clean and unannotated copies of the text into the exam. And an overview of the coursework. It's available as an alternative to paper 2. It assesses 40% of the total English literature qualification, the same as paper 2. Students respond to a teacher devised or student devised, or you devise it between you, 2 tasks with two titles, obviously one for each part. The set text for the assignments are the same as for paper 2, sections A and B. We'll be looking at what those are in a moment. Again, teaching should focus on whole text to encourage reading skills, produce clear, coherent writing. There is no prescribed word length. Typically, each task could be 650 to 800 words, but no penalties for exceeding the guidance. So thinking about the set text, for the modern drama text, the choice is a view from the bridge, an inspector calls, a curious incident of the dog in the night time, and death in the king's horseman. So just for the modern drama text, could you just pop in which one you're thinking of doing or which one you're currently teaching? Just for the modern drama text. An inspector calls, a curious incident, but mostly we've got a stream of an inspector calls coming up. A view from the bridge, so we've got a little bit of variety, a few more view from the bridge coming in there. Lovely, thank you very much for doing that. So again, in the Getting Started guide, we've got quite a lot of guidance here to support you. So going to have a quick look at an inspector calls from that Getting Started guide. That seems to be the most. It seems to be an inspector calls, a view from the bridge, and then a curious incident. Seem to be from delegates that we've got in the room today. Oh, and somebody who's doing both. Okay, thank you for that. So if we have a look in the Getting Started guide, again, I'll give you a little minute to find that. We've got 7 points for an inspector calls on the context and content. We've got 4 bullet points on themes and a couple of bullet points on form and structure. And if we look at themes, we've got some nice things on class, on responsibility, on the supernatural, on parents and children. So that they're all very useful, but about the socialist perspective, about the fate of Eva Smith, and what that conveys about Priestley's own feelings. We've got some nice things about responsibility and the role of the inspector on teaching that. Quite a lot on parents and children, and how Sheila and Erica start the play certainly as products of Mr. and Mrs. Burling. Sheila being kind of spoilt and overprotected, and Eric being a bit directionless and his issues with alcohol, and the way in which they change by the end of the play, but the parents, the older generation, don't. And then the use of the supernatural, of course, and the Inspector Gould is omniscient, and his name and all the rest of it, and then some things about form and structure. So I can see a question's just come in there. Ah, so it's not a question for me. It looks like somebody. Okay, so I don't need to answer that. So some very useful support there on all of the modern drama texts in that Getting Started guide. So moving on to the literary heritage, we've got a choice of Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, The Merchant of Venice, Pride and Prejudice, Great Expectations, and The Scarlet Letter. So would you just like to pop into the text chat there? Oh, lots of Macbeths already coming in. You were just a little bit ahead of me there. Romeo and Juliet, but mostly Macbeth, or the Scottish play. Oh, One Great Expectation. Some doing Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth. So I'm guessing that's with different classes. So and Merchant of Venice. So we've got quite a nice range across the group we've got in the room today. That's always nice to see. Okay, thank you very much for that. So again, referring to the Getting Started guide, I'm going to take Macbeth because that was the one that went zooming up the text chat there at the beginning. So again, we can see in the Getting Started guide, we've got 8 bullet points there on context and content. A bit about James I, of course, a bit about it being a tragedy and when it was written, and always the divine right of kings. Of course, students really enjoy that idea, and the lineage. So lots to support you there. Question there about, do you have to choose 2 different texts in the coursework? Yeah, so the coursework is 2 pieces, one from that on the screen at the moment, one modern drama text for assignment A, and one literary heritage text from for assignment B. So it mirrors the exam. So in the exam, they do 1 question on modern drama and 1 question on literary heritage, and in the coursework there are two assignments. Then we've got the themes unpacked for us from Macbeth: ambition, the supernatural, violence, power, fate and free will, the reversal of nature, light and dark, and death. So lots of things there to support you when you first start teaching this. And then the form and structure of the play, a couple of bullet points there for you. So we've had a little vote as we've gone through those. So we're not going to discuss which text you're doing because we've just done that, but just to get us up a little poll going here of, are you choosing the exam or the coursework? Ooh, quite a mixture here. Lots of coursework. Quite a few exams came in. I'd say we're pretty much 50-50 split there. Yeah, we still call it a paper, yeah, even though it's non-exam route. So they're called paper 2, paper 3. So I think we're pretty much split on exam route and coursework route here. Okay, thank you very much for that. So now we're going to think about teaching the content. Again, there'll be an opportunity here. Some of you may, obviously already teaching this. There'll be an opportunity to share some good practice as we go through here. But we're going to start by having a look at the assessment objectives. So here they are. So AO1 is demonstrate a close knowledge and understanding of text, maintaining a critical style and presenting an informed personal engagement. And AO1 is 30% of the final grade. Assessment object 2 is analyze the language, form and structure used by the writer to create meanings and effects, and that's 40% of the final grade. AO3 is explore links and connections between the texts, and that's 10% of the final grade. And then AO4 is show understanding of the relationship between text and context in which they were written, and that's 20% of the final grade. So we're going to have a little look at some of the materials that are available to support you in the teaching of these assessment objectives. Okay, I'm just going to take this question. I've provided 2 pieces of feedback before their final submission. Now they are redrafting it. When can be their final submission? Looks to me like you're talking about the coursework. Yeah, okay, thank you. The coursework there. And I'm presuming that they're taking the exam in June. So that there are various ways through here. So there's modular and linear. So that okay, taking in May. So that the submission for that coursework, the final submission to Pearson of your sample of coursework is in May. Okay, so approaches to yeah, okay, thank you very much. So yeah, just where the assessment objectives are being assessed. So we've got unseen poetry assesses AO2. So of course, we're looking here at AO2 because that's the language analysis of language, form and structure. They haven't seen that poem before. So we're assessing their ability to look at it. So it's AO2. The anthology poetry, which is section B of paper 1, which is worth 30 marks. We're looking at AO2 and AO3. Modern prose, we're looking at AO1 and AO4. So AO3 is only assessed in anthology. That's where they compare. So context doesn't come in until section C of the paper, the 40-mark modern prose question. And AO1 and AO4 are being assessed in section C of paper 1. So marks 20 for unseen poetry, 30 for anthology poetry, and 40 for modern prose. And then you can see that the same assessment objectives are in paper 2 or paper 3 or paper 2 or coursework. The modern drama is AO1 and AO2. So we're assessing their knowledge and understanding and their critical approach to the text and their analysis of language, form and structure in the modern drama. And then the literary heritage also assesses context. So some approaches to AO1 now. And this is from the Getting Started guide. So this is why I'm recommending the Getting Started guide to you, because it has a lot of like starters for you to start off teaching. So AO1, just a reminder, it's knowledge and understanding of text, it's the critical style, it's the informed personal response. And this is just, I'm going to give you a minute to read through this. It's some things to support you. It's a teaching idea. It's called the silent debate, this particular activity. So I'm just going to give you a moment to read through that. I'm just going to mute for a minute while you have a look. Really pleased you like it, Mark and Patrick. I think it's page 43. It certainly is in my edition. So while we're on a bit of a roll at looking at some of this material that can support you in the teaching of these assessment objectives, yes, that's correct, Mark. Paper 2 and paper 3 mirror each other. So it's 40% of the final assessment. Paper 2 is just the exam, 2 questions. Paper 3 is the coursework, 2 assignments. So in terms of approaches to AO2, have a little look at this one. This is just an activity again from the Getting Started guide. In my edition of the Getting Started guide, that's pages 46 to 47. This is obviously about analysing language, form and structure to create meaning. And although this is talking a little bit here about modern drama in the example down there, of course we have AO2 in the unseen and in the anthology text as well. But this is just an example of how you can, just a little teaching idea for you to have a little read through. Yep, there are many acronyms that I've seen centres use, whichever works for your students. And then thinking about drama specifically, writing about drama as drama, this is a document in your download pack. This is SO6. It's called Writing About Drama as Drama. So I'll just give you a little moment to have a scan of that. Nice to see some things in the chat about people asking about good practice. Obviously, but the route through paper 2 doesn't have to be drama and drama for section A and section B, but many centres, and certainly from the poll we did just now about who's studying what, a lot of centres who do, for example, an Inspector Calls and one of the Shakespeare plays for section B. We want to be encouraging our students to think about drama, the fact that these texts were written to be produced, not just read in the classroom for an IGCSE. So this is just a useful document for you in terms of that. So a few approaches there to AO2. This slide is from the scheme of work. So again, I'm going to be referring you to some of the downloads that you had today. This is for poetry. So the scheme of work is SO7 in your download. This is from page 4 of that scheme of work. It's just to highlight a little bit of the fact that there are things to support you if you are totally new to the specification, and that would be one of the things to support you in an approach to that teaching of assessment objective 2. So we're moving through these assessment objectives. So we've done AO1, AO2. AO3 is only assessed in paper 1, section B, anthology poetry. So it's the comparison assessment objective. So I'm going to refer you now to another document in your downloads for today, and that is SO8. Now we call this a comparison mop list. Obviously, students here are working with the 16 anthology poems. They're studying all of them with you in class. They're going to be asked about 2 of them in the exam. Is there a book where we can explain these items? I'm not too sure what you mean. There is a textbook which I'll be talking about later on today. There is, of course, the Getting Started guide. There are all of these resources that I'm referring to in the course today, the scheme of work. All of these downloads that are available today are also available on the Pearson website under the 4ET landing page, which I'll also look at when we're talking a little bit about support at the end of today. I hope that answers your question, Lania. There are lots of things to support you going through. Do you mean the division of the assessment objectives? So in terms of the division of tasks and where they're so that's the scheme of work, tasks in the scheme of work, and there are various planners that are available to you as well. So there's a literature planner that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit. There is the scheme of work. There are various documents to support you. Okay, so this is the comparison mop list, and you can see that there are things that, language devices, imagery, structure, tone, all the kinds of things we would be teaching students when we're teaching poetry. Um, and this is just where they think, right, what's the big idea? What's the meaning or purpose of this poem? Because we can't just go and say, poet one uses a metaphor and poet two uses a simile, because it's not showing the examiner that the student knows what the poem's actually about. So thinking about the meaning, the purpose of the poem, the language, what devices has the poet used? Is there imagery? What images? Is there an extended metaphor that goes throughout the poem? Um, what's the rhyme, the rhythm? Um, the the layout, even the physical layout of when you look at the poem, what's that like? And of course, tone is often a discriminator. How has the poet um, shown the tone of the writer, shown the emotions perhaps through that? And this is just a really good way of preparing students initially for for each poem, but also for the comparative element, holding those two poems in tension. So that's SO8 in the download. And again, from the Getting Started guide, we've got some activity here about making those links and connections. And this is from page 53 of the Getting Started guide. And I'm going to mute for a minute and allow you to have a little read of that so you can see it's just a nice little teaching idea for you. I can see lots of people who are liking this. Okay, so that's AO3. So let's have a think about AO4. What is AO4? So this is from the specification. And just helping us underline really what we're thinking about when we're talking about context. So obviously different types of context that influence writers. So their own life. Obviously we thought about that a little bit for Steinbeck for the paper one prose question. a couple of people said they were doing To Kill a Mockingbird. That would also be very relevant there for Harper Lee. The historical setting, the time and location, again, for those two texts I've just mentioned, but also for our literary heritage text, for section B of either paper 2 or the coursework. The social and cultural context, the attitudes in society. Again, we could think of To Kill a Mockingbird there. The expectations of different cultural groups. I didn't see anybody who was doing things fall apart, but you could see it there as well. The literary context, the movements, the genres, and the way in which texts are received and engaged by different audiences at different times. For example, how a text may be read differently in the 21st century from when it was written. And if we just take, well, let's take Macbeth as an example, shall we? The whole idea of, for a Jacobean audience, of Lady Macbeth being, the lead in that marriage, if you like, the way in which she manipulates her husband. Now that, for us now, that isn't shocking, but of course it would have been then. And so those kind of how it was received then, how it's received now. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you'd lost your connection, Aisha. I'm glad you're back. Okay, so that's just a little bit about an overview of the wide range of interpretations of text and context. So a little bit more now about AO4. It is show understanding of the relationships between text and context in which they were written. So making sure that students relate the context points to the text. We don't want a biography of Shakespeare put on either at the beginning or at the end. It's where these context points naturally occur. If you're talking about, for example, let's go back to the idea of the divine right of kings. That naturally occurs when writing about almost Macbeth breaking that great chain of being, the responses, that most sacrilegious murder hath broke up the Lord's anointed temple. If you're using that as a quotation, that's a natural point to bring in context. So always remembering that it's a literary essay, it's not a history essay. So context where it naturally occurs in the argument, rather than bolting it on as, oh, I've got to talk about context. So again, as we have been looking at each of these assessment objectives and things that support the teaching of these in the Getting Started guide, we're going to have a look now at approaches to AO4 from the Getting Started guide. There is a section on possible contextual points for each text where it's relevant. So here we've got some approaches. So this did refer to these very briefly, but I'm going to just mute and let you have a little read. And again, we've got some approaches in the Getting Started guide to how you might teach this. So here are a couple of activities. And if you've got any ways in which you teach this, how do you teach context? Let's have some sharing of good practice into the chat box. So how would you teach context? These are on the Scarlet Letter. I don't think we had anybody coming in with the Scarlet Letter as their chosen text. But how would you teach context? What good practice have you got to share with other delegates? We are a lot of delegates in the room today. We're about 60. So hopefully you've got some good tips for each other here. I'll just mute for a minute while you're doing that. Usually have some great ideas coming into the chat. There's some nice points coming into the chat here. Lots and lots of good practice. Give you another minute or two just to add anything to that. I'm sure some of you are jotting ideas down from the chat as well. Okay, thank you very much for all those great ideas. It's always lovely when you get teachers together in a room and you see enthusiasm coming up there through the chat. So moving on to the next little section of today, thinking about planning the course. There are some lesson plans. There's not a huge number, a small number of lesson plans for you for the poetry. This one is from My Last Duchess, and it's SO9 in your download for today. You know, again, a little bit of time just to have a read through this, because it's not very often that you know, teachers are all very, very busy in school, that we have the the privilege of just being able to sit and read something. So I'll give you a moment to have a little look at this one that's in your pack, and there's a hyperlink and so on. So a little bit about the planning of the course if you're brand new to us. International GCSEs have 120 guided learning hours. There is a 2-year plan that we'll be having a look at in a moment, and it's available for you again in your download with all those, a long number of download documents today. Obviously it can be adapted by your centre to suit your context, and whether you're teaching language against literature at the same time, separately, all of those things. There are some suggested teaching approaches there, but the course planner I'm going to show you now, which is, let me just have a look. It is it's based on 45-minute lessons. So it's a 2-year planner. This one suggests that in year 1, you look at modern drama, literary heritage, poetry, anthology. And in year 2, that you carry on with the poetry anthology, some practice unseen poetry, and modern prose. So you have got a full course plan, and obviously it's just a question of adapting that to suit your own school. So, no real reason, no, about why that suggested that modern drama comes first. Obviously, your students, you know what they'll have studied in year 9. It's entirely up to you how you approach it. Often students like the modern drama, getting them into year 10 and maybe doing an inspector course is quite nice. Would you follow this same plan if you were doing the coursework? Difficult to tell. Then, if you were doing the coursework and you were starting with the modern drama, then you would be doing the coursework at the start of the course. Whether or not you do it a bit later when students got a bit more maturity in writing, again, it very much depends on your students. Don't know if anybody wants to, who's doing a coursework route, wants to put their experience in here and what's worked for them. All of these materials, by the way, are in the Getting Started guide. This is just a screenshot of a course planner. And each of the long-term plans gives some suggestion about content. So this is just a little bit about the Getting Started guide, which you've got in your download, of course, and how to use the scheme of work. So again, I'll just give you a moment. Yeah, we've got some people here coming in now with different ways of teaching the course, and why you've started where you've started. So that's all good to share that. Started with modern drama in year 10, term 2 you did Macbeth. Okay, so we can see some suggestions there. So that scheme of work, SO7 and the Getting Started Guide, SO5. If you joined or if you lost your connection at any time, join the course today. We're thinking now about putting it all together. We've had some great ideas here about content, about teaching the course. We might still have people who are putting ideas in there about, where they started and so on. So thinking about, making sure you've got enough time if you're teaching language and literature in the same lessons, making sure you've got enough time for each of the discrete aspects of those specifications. Thinking about how much teaching time you have per week, which papers you're teaching, how much time you need to allow for revision, when to build in the mocks if your school has set weeks for mocks and tests and so on. So those are all the big picture things you need to think about before teaching and starting teaching. So obviously you've got lesson plans, schemes of work. Any more suggestions just for a moment into the text chat before we go on to think about assessment that you'd like to share? Okay, so let's think about now the assessment and the exams. Uh, we've got bits about assessment today, but obviously the Thursday's course will be very much on assessment and applying these assessment objectives. So just a quick reminder of what we've got. We've got paper 1, focus on poetry and modern prose, obviously unseen poetry, anthology poetry, modern prose. Paper 2 or coursework, modern drama and literary heritage, and that's 60-40 weighting across those 2 papers. Quick reminder of the assessment objectives that we looked at earlier on. I'm not going to do these again, but it's just a reminder just to kind of refresh on that. And in a moment, we're going to look at the June 2024 papers. So I'll be running through those now. Okay, so that's where the assessment objectives are. And we're going to look now at the June 2024 paper, which is SO11 in your download, and SO12 in your download is the mark scheme for paper 1. So I'll just give you a second to find SO11 and SO12. Yep, I can get that link shared for you again now. So I'm just going to pop, there we are. Thank you very much. That was as if by magic. So the poem, the unseen poem, in the June 2024 paper, those of you already teaching, some of your students may have set this paper, was Unfinished Poem by Barry Wade. And the question that was asked about it was explore how the writer presents nature in this poem. In your answer and its scaffolded question, you should consider the writer's descriptive skills, choice of language, and use of form and structure. So we can see there very, very clear signposting to that assessment objective 2. And they're told to support their answer with examples from the poem. So I'll just give you a moment just to have a quick scan of the poem. We're not going to do too much on this. We're just going to look at one response. So a moment to scan the poem. And then we're going to look at the mark scheme. A nice poem for students to have a go at. Okay, and this is the mark scheme. So it's a levels-based mark scheme. We can see it's AO2. We've got the analysis of language, form, and structure at the top. And we're working here with 2 bullet points. So the first bullet point in each of those 5 levels is about language, form, and structure. And the second bullet point in each of the levels is about the references, the use of references. So we're only assessing one assessment objective. So in terms of language, form, and structure, in level 1, we'd be looking at simple and identification. In level 2, we can see how these work up. Level 2, it would be largely descriptive and with some comment on the language, form, and structure. In level 3, the student would be showing an understanding of the range of language, form, and structure, and linking these to the effect on the reader. In level 4, the response would be focused and detailed, and there'd be analysis of language, form, and structure, and the effect on the reader. And in level 5, there'd be a cohesive evaluation, and that would be looking at that interrelationship. How do they work together, language, form, and structure? And what's the effect on the reader? And in terms of our second bullet point, the references, they would be limited in level 1, some use of relevant examples in level 2, clearly relevant in level 3, fully relevant in level 4, and discriminating in level 5. So that's how these levels-based mark schemes work. We'll be applying these on Thursday. But for now, we're just going to look at a snippet. It's not the whole response of a script. This is from the examiner report. We haven't got that as a download today, but we will have it as a download in Thursday's training. This is just a snippet from a level 5 response. It's obviously not the whole response. So I'll just give you a moment to have a little look through that. We can see here this is a student who, they haven't seen this poem before. The student has really stood back to see what is the poem about and how is the writer using language, form, and structure. They're giving some nice support. Obviously, we've only got a tiny paragraph here, but we can see even from that tiny paragraph that this is a student who's doing really well. Now, we're not marking today, but I just want to give you a little example of an extract that is of level 5 quality. So that's paper 1, section A. Paper 1, section B, we're moving on to the anthology. So these are poems that the students have seen before. They've studied in class with you, and they're given a choice. They answer either question 2 or question 3. Question 2 will always give them the two named poems. Question 3 will always give them one named poem and give them a choice of the other. Thanks for the question, Nicola. Is there a suggested length of response or number of points? No. Unfortunately not. There is in the rubric some suggested time. But obviously it's about the quality of the response. So I can't say make X number of points because there might be X number of really quite shallow points. So the only way really that you can get a clue to responses and levels is by looking at something in each level, or we will be looking at things in a number of levels in Thursday's training to see what does level 3 look like, what does level 4 look like, what does level 5 look like, and the meanings of those level-based mark schemes will become clear. But we can't say to students, you need to make 5 points because that wouldn't be helpful for them. Okay, so the questions from June 2024 were reread half past and remember, compare the ways the writers express their feelings in half past and remember. So compare is AO3. So we've got clear signposting there. And then you should make reference to language, form and structure, which is AO2, which is being assessed here. So clear signposting there, and support your answer with examples from the poems. Or they could choose reread half past 2, compare the ways the writers present being alone. So they've got very specific focus for these questions in half past 2 and one other poem from the anthology. And again, the signposting to the AO2 and the examples. So the mark schemes here, and apologies, these are a little bit small, but you've got them as a download as well in SO11. They're page 6 in SO11 for you. So this is the AO2 and the AO3. Here we can see that the first bullet point is our AO2 bullet point. It's referring to language, form and structure. The second bullet point in each of the levels is our AO3, referring to comparison. And the third bullet point in each of these levels is referring to the references, the examples. So how is it working its way up? Well, if we look first of all at language, form and structure, the first bullet point, we can see simple identification. In level 2, largely descriptive and comment on language, form and structure. In level 3, an understanding of the range of language, form and structure and the effects on the reader. In level 4, focused and detailed analysis of language, form and structure and the effect on the reader. And in level 5, cohesive evaluation of that interrelationship of language, form and structure and the effect on the reader. Now we can see there's an NB at the top of level 2, and that's if a student only uses one poem. And it would have to be very good to get up there because the focus of this is on the comparison as well. So looking at the AO3, our second bullet point in each of the levels. In level 1, little or no comparison. In level 2, underdeveloped comparison. In level 3, compares and contrasts a range of points. In level 4, compares and contrasts the poems effectively, considering a wide range of similarity differences. And in level 5, compares and contrasts the poems perceptively with varied and comprehensive range of similarities and differences. And then our third bullet point, which is about references, they're limited, relevant, clearly relevant, fully relevant, or discriminating. So that's how those mark schemes work for the AO2, AO3 for anthology poetry, which is a potential mark out of 30. So again, we've just got a snippet for you just to have a little quick look at what a level 5 might look like. So again, I'll just give you a moment to have a look through that. It is only a small chunk of a level 5 response. But you can see how this talks about both of the writers. As I said, the focus of Thursday will be much more on assessment and looking at different levels. So modern prose section C, paper 1, the of mice and men questions in June were explore the significance of curly in the novel. You must consider the context of the novel in your answer. So again, that clear signposting to assessment objective 4. Or students could choose in what ways is death important in Of Mice and Men? And again, the signposting to the context and 40 marks available. So the mark schemes for the modern prose, quite busy mark schemes here. We've got 4 bullet points. The first bullet point is on the knowledge and understanding of the text. The second bullet point is on personal engagement. The third bullet point is on context. And the fourth bullet point is on the references, the examples. So AO1 and AO4 are the 2 assessment objectives being assessed. We can see that they're equally weighted. However, and I'll cover this in a bit more detail on Thursday, we would not expect half of the essay to be context. So in terms of knowledge and understanding, in level 1, we've got limited. In level 2, some. In level 3, sound. In level 4, thorough. And in level 5, assured. In terms of engagement, the response would be simple, little evidence of personal engagement in level 1, largely narrative and some evidence of personal engagement in level 2, relevant personal engagement, appropriate critical style in level 3, thorough personal engagement and sustained critical style in level 4, and assured personal engagement and perceptive critical style in level 5. And in terms of the examples, they would be relevant in level 1, in limited use of relevant, some use of relevant, clearly relevant in level 3, fully relevant in level 4, and discriminating use of relevant examples in level 5. So again, here we've got a little snippet of Mice and Men of a level 5 response. And I'll give you a moment to have a little look at that. Yes, paper 1 is closed book and paper 2 is open book. That's that question, Nicola. Are students expected to quote is the question. Many students do quote. They would certainly be, we would take references to the text in quite a wide way. So if they're referencing specific incidents, let's take the example, shall we, of the shooting of Candy's dog, foreshadowing the shooting of Lenny. That we would view as a reference. Okay, so Malika, are you asking about the modern prose text there? So I'll just scroll back to that. Okay, so there we've got I've just scrolled back up to AO1 and AO4. So AO1 here is divided into the first 2 bullet points. AO4 is in the 3rd bullet point, and the 4th bullet point is about references or examples of incidents that the student is using from the text. Hope that helps. Okay, so paper 2 or paper 3. So choice of 2 questions in the question paper. AO1 and AO2 being assessed in modern drama, and AO1, AO2, and AO4 being addressed in the literary heritage text. So these are available for you in the download. SO13 and SO14 are the question paper and mark scheme from the June paper. So the question in the June paper for an inspector calls was the Burlings place more importance on their family name than on relationships with each other. Discuss the significance of family in an inspector calls. You must consider language, form, and structure in your answer, so signposting to AO2. Or how far do you agree with the view that Gerald shows he is selfish in the play? And again, the signposting there as well. So again, we're getting a real hang of how these mark schemes work. So we're looking at AO1 and AO2. Here, our first bullet point is on knowledge and understanding. So AO1, first and second bullet point, knowledge and understanding and personal engagement. Third bullet point on AO2, language, form and structure. And the 4th bullet point on the references. So if we're looking at our first bullet point, knowledge and understanding, we can see as we go up, you just follow through because we're getting used to these now. Limited, some, sound, thorough, assured, as we move up through those levels. And then in terms of personal engagement, simple, and then would be largely narrative, some evidence in level 2, relevant in level 3, and relevant personal engagement, appropriate critical style, thorough personal engagement, sustained critical style in level 4, and in level 5, assured personal engagement, perceptive critical style. Then in terms of our AO2, minimal identification, some comment, these are all language, form and structure, sound understanding, sustained analysis, and cohesive evaluation in level 5. And then on the references, limited, some, clearly relevant, fully relevant, and discriminating. So AO1, AO2, modern drama in paper 2, AO1 and AO2. And a little bit of level 5 here. Bear with the handwriting, it's a very good response. So I'll just give you a moment to have a look at that. question there about in the guide. I mean, there are lots and lots of strategies in there. Of course, helping to teach critical style could be looking at many of the past examiner reports and looking at what's worked well, what's you can do things like give them a level 3 response, ask them to move it up to a level 5 response, getting them to compare responses. What does this one do? What does that one do? There are, of course, things in the textbook if you choose to use that, and so on. Okay, so just aware a little bit of the time. So we're getting through a lot here today. These were the questions from the Macbeth in June. Explore the significance of the supernatural in Macbeth. And then the focus on you must consider language, form and structure, so the AO2, and refer to context, the AO4. Or they could have chosen how Shakespeare presents Duncan and Malcolm in the play. So we're working here with AO4 as well in the section B. So when we're looking at the mark scheme, we've got the addition here of the AO4. So I don't think we need to go through the others, but we can see that the AO4 here is the third bullet point. Sorry, the fourth bullet point. So little comments in level 1, some comments in level 2, relevant comments on the context in level 3, detailed awareness of the relationship between text and context in level 4, and understanding of the relationship between text and context is integrated convincingly into the response in level 5. So we're working with AO1, AO2, AO4 on the literary heritage. So again, we've got a snippet of Macbeth for you here. This is again from the examiner report, which we'll be working with on Thursday. This is a level 5. The bullet point 5, this is about the student's ability to integrate examples into their response. So it doesn't, it's not AO4 per se, it's not context, because that would be quite difficult, but it's how they're using references to support their argument. Okay, so moving on, I know we've got a lot of people in the room who are doing the coursework, so just a reminder that it's available as an alternative. It's 40%. It's 2 coursework tasks, internally set, externally moderated, the same set text, and should focus on the teaching of whole text. So this is just a little bit about setting coursework tasks, some examples of questions and how you could format them. So we've got one there for an inspector calls for assignment A, one from a view from the bridge, and then for assignment B, we've got a couple from the prose text here, but there is quite a lot to support you on the coursework on the website as well. So in terms of the mark scheme for the modern drama, obviously it mirrors this. We're mirroring here paper 2 in terms of focus. So the mark scheme, we're looking at AO1 and AO2, and then for assignment B, we've also got the AO4. I think we're pretty used to the mark schemes now, but this one's, we did have somebody in here actually doing a curious incident of a dog in the night time. So here's an example from a piece of coursework, and again, we'll be looking at these in more detail in module 2. So this one did get 30 out of 30. It was at the top of level 5. So I'll just give you a moment to scan that, those of you who are doing the coursework. Very nice response there, isn't it? And then, of course, our literary heritage mark scheme, where we've got the AO4 in as well. So we've been through this, so we know about how these work. But if you'd like to look at a little bit of a script that got top marks, this is a student response on Pride and Prejudice. It is only a tiny bit of it, but I'll just give you a few minutes just to have a little look at that. This did get a 30 out of 30. It's always nice to see some top level responses. But on Thursday, we'll be looking at responses at different levels across the 4ET qualification and applying that mark scheme so we can see how those mark schemes work in terms of actual scripts. So I'll mute for a moment while you have a moment to read through this, because it's very enjoyable and it is just a tiny little bit. Do students need to state where the incident they refer to or the quote used is found in the books? If you're asking me, do they need to say this happened in part, let's take of Mice and Men, for example, that this happens in part 3 of the text. No, they don't need to do that. Okay, so moving on to where you'll find more support and where you'll find the resources. This is the landing, what you'll see on the page of 4ET. So I just want to talk you through a little bit about this. So on the left-hand side there, you'll see the specification and the sample assessment materials. Now, they will always be updated to reflect, for example, on this 4ET, the addition of those 2 new texts for the modern prose. So make sure you're always working from the latest specification and sample assessment materials. Exam materials, you'll see there are an awful lot of exam materials there, 165. They will be all the past papers, paper 1 and paper 2, both for the main paper and for the R paper. So if you're new to Pearson, then we have what's called an R paper. The R paper, the R just stands for regional because we're working on different time zones. So the questions will be different for the main paper and the regional paper. They'll be at the same level, of course, and they're awarded together. But because of time differences and, perhaps if you were joining us from Hong Kong and you're 8 hours ahead, we can't have your students, taking their exams in the middle of the night. So we do have 2 papers for every series. That does mean that there are double the number of papers, and there are two sittings every year, so there are lots and lots of past papers for you to use with your students. The forms and administration, that's going to be things like the coursework cover sheets, the authentication sheets, all of those kind of things. So if we look to the right-hand side, you can see the course planners, coursework support is there, exemplar material where you'll find past responses, the guidance, the lesson plans, the mapping documents, past training content. So any past training that's been run, the materials are all there under that tab, and you can see there are some new materials there. The qualification guide, scheme of work, a lot of these materials obviously you've had today. Specimen papers, so new specimen papers will be made with questions for the new text. So lots and lots of material there to support you. You just click on the right hand side and you'll see everything that's there for you. So we are committed to helping teachers deliver our Pearson Edexcel qualifications and help students to achieve their full potential. We aim for our qualifications to be supported by a wide range of high quality resources. There are some textbooks, but you don't have to have the textbook to teach the course. If you just don't have the hyperlink, but obviously if I try and find you the hyperlink, Lucas, I'm going to lose the PowerPoint. But if you just Google Pearson Edexcel English Literature 4ET, you'll find that landing page. Okay, so that student book is available for you, but you don't have to have it. Access to scripts, just going to talk about this for a moment or two. Access to scripts is something that we supply for you on results day. So on that day in August, your students get the results on Edexcel online. You can go on there and you can find every exam paper from every one of your students, and you can look at it, providing you have the students' permission to do so. So if you're surprised by a student's exam result, you can have a little look for each of their questions and see how they've done. It's instantly available on Edexcel online. It's a great service. I think we are the only awarding body that offers that service in that form at the moment. And then you can think about, if you wanted to have a review of marking, you can look at the script and decide whether or not that's the right route for you to go down. Results Plus is another platform. It's an analysis tool. So you can look at your classes against classes. You can look at your questions against questions. You can look at your school against other schools in your area. You can perhaps see whether or not are your students outperforming on anthology poems rather than the prose. Therefore, do you need to focus more teaching on prose next year, or the other way around? It's a benchmark. It gives you lots and lots of modes and medians and lots of other mathematical things that you can play with. And you can just you have an account for that and have a little look. Exam Wizard is another Pearson platform. It's a free tool. You can make homework assignments. You can surprise students by not giving them a past paper and giving them an unseen from one paper, a anthology question from another paper, a prose question from another paper. You can make your own exam papers, all kinds of things that you can do on Exam Wizard as well. We do have a dedicated subject advisor, Claire Haviland. You've got her contact details. Many of you will know Claire, I'm sure, if you're doing any of our qualifications. I would suggest you sign up for her regular subject updates because it tells you everything that's happening. You've got her email address there. So if you're doing either of our language specifications, specification A or B, this English Literature 4ET, the International A-level, any of the home GCSEs, any of the home A-levels, Claire is the fount of all knowledge. She really does know everything about all of these qualifications. She replies to questions very, very quickly. So any questions that strike you after today's training, please get in touch with Claire, and she will answer your questions very, very quickly. And you can also book an appointment with her if you want to talk through anything at all if you're new to us. So any further questions? At this point, I would like to thank you all for being so active, responding to the group chats, giving colleagues who are completely new to this qualification lots of helpful advice. It's always lovely to see that chat coming through. Hopefully I'll see most of you on Thursday for Thursday's kind of more nitty-gritty assessment type module 2 training. Any further questions, just pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to thank you all very much and hand back to our moderator to close today's event.